Part 1. For over 100 years, humans had been the youngest members of the Galactic Council. They listened more than they spoke. They followed rules set by older species. They built ships, traded goods, and tried to learn from those who had ruled the stars long before Earth even dreamed of spaceflight. But deep down, many humans felt like guests who were never truly welcome at the table. The Council was made up of 7 major species. Some were tall and graceful, others armored like living tanks, and a few communicated through light and scent instead of sound. They had controlled galactic law, trade routes, and technology sharing for thousands of years. To them, humanity was clever but reckless, emotional but promising. They treated humans like children who needed guidance, not equals who deserved respect. That changed on a quiet Tuesday morning above the moon. On Luna Station, the largest human outpost beyond Earth, Captain Daniel Brooks stood near the observation deck. He watched the last diplomatic shuttle from the Council pull away from the docking ring. Its silver hull caught the sunlight as it turned toward deep space. No flags flew. No messages were sent. Just silence. Beside him, Commander Lisa Grant leaned against the railing, arms crossed. Her uniform was crisp, her eyes tired. "They still think we're bluffing," she said, her voice low. Brooks didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on the shuttle until it vanished into the black. "Let them think that," he replied. "It'll make what comes next hit harder." Back on Earth in the capital city of Geneva, President Alan Wright sat alone in the Global Command Chamber. The room was dim, lit only by soft blue panels showing star maps and fleet positions. In a few minutes he would address not just Earth, but every listening ear in known space. He took a slow breath. This wasn't just politics. This was history. At exactly 0900 hours Universal Time, his image appeared on every public screen, every ship console, every alien comm unit that could receive a human signal. His face was calm. His voice was steady. Effective immediately, he began. The United Earth government withdraws from all treaties, agreements, and communications with the Galactic Council. We will no longer participate in Council votes, accept Council rulings, or respond to Council inquiries. A pause, just long enough for the words to sink in. "We are no longer asking for a seat at your table," he said. "We're building our own." Then the transmission ended. No music, no fanfare, just static. On Vexus Prime, the heart of the Council, panic erupted before the signal even finished. The celestial spire, a towering structure of crystal and light, filled with shouts, clicks, and pulses of alarm. Councillor Krell of the Zenthari slammed his 3-fingered hand on the table. "This cannot be," he hissed in his native tongue, quickly switching to standard for the others. Humans do not act alone. They consult. They negotiate. They obey. But this time, they hadn't. High Speaker Varnus, a tall Eltharian with silver eyes and a voice like wind through stone, stood slowly. His face showed no emotion, but his fingers trembled slightly. "They have cut the cord," he said. Not with anger. Not with war. With silence. That silence spread faster than any weapon. Within hours, human colonies across the Orion Arm went dark. No trade updates. No news broadcasts. No routine check-ins. Ships that usually patrolled shared borders returned to Sol space without explanation. Automated defense grids around Earth, Mars, and Titan powered up to full alert, but fired no shots. They simply waited. The Council sent emergency messages. First polite, then urgent, then demanding. All went unanswered. Envoys were dispatched. 3 shuttles, each carrying diplomats from different Council species, approached the edge of Sol's warning zone. A calm, robotic voice greeted them. "You are entering restricted human space. Turn back immediately." When they refused, claiming diplomatic immunity, the voice repeated the warning. On the 3rd pass, their comms were jammed. Their navigation systems glitched. And before they could react, invisible tractor beams gently but firmly pushed them back beyond the boundary. No damage was done. No threats were made. Just a clear message. We are done talking. Back on Earth, people didn't riot. They didn't cheer. They simply went to work. Factories hummed louder. Research labs stayed open through the night. Farmers on orbital rings doubled food production. Schools added new lessons on self-reliance and deep space survival. In a small workshop beneath the red dust of Mars, engineer Rick Torres wiped grease from his hands and looked at the half-built device on his table. It pulsed with a soft blue light. They think we're weak because we played nice, he muttered to no one. Across the room, astrophysicist Maya Ellis adjusted a lens on a quantum scanner. Playing nice got us ignored, she said. Now they'll listen, even if we never say another word. On Titan, young pilot Chris Lane ran drills in a new fighter prototype. Its hull was sleek, black, and coated with a material that absorbed radar and light alike. His instructor's voice crackled in his ear. Remember, son, we don't fight to win. We fight so they never dare to test us again. Meanwhile, aboard the medical frigate Hope, Dr. Paul Jenkins reviewed patient logs from a recent rescue mission near the Kuiper Belt. They'd saved a crew of stranded miners, human and alien alike. No questions asked. No paperwork required. Just help. That was the new rule. Help first, ask later. The council tried to spin the story. They claimed humanity had gone rogue, that Earth was unstable, that humans couldn't be trusted with advanced tech. But their words rang hollow, because for the first time, humans weren't defending themselves. They were simply gone. And that absence spoke louder than any speech. In the quiet corridors of Luna Station, Captain Brooks finally turned away from the viewport. They'll send spies next, he said. Commander Grant nodded. Let them come. They'll find nothing but empty channels and locked doors. And when they realize we're not coming back? Brooks asked. She looked at him, a small smile forming. Then they'll panic. And panic, as it turned out, was already spreading. On dozens of council worlds, markets dipped. Supply chains wavered. Species that relied on human-made microchips, medical nanites, or atmospheric processors suddenly faced shortages. Humans had never bragged about how much the galaxy depended on them. They just did the work. Now that work had stopped. President Wright didn't gloat. He didn't issue threats. He simply walked out of the command chamber, stepped into the sunlight of a Geneva morning, and bought a coffee from a street vendor like any other citizen. The galaxy held its breath. And humanity, for the first time in its starfaring history, stood tall not as students, not as subjects, but as equals who refused to beg for respect. The silence wasn't weakness, it was strength. Part 2. Weeks passed and the silence from humanity grew heavier. No signals, no broadcasts, no replies to the dozens of messages the Galactic Council sent. Human space became a void, dark, quiet, and guarded. Ships that drifted too close to the edge of Sol territory found their sensors blinded, their engines slowed, and their comms filled with static. Not a single shot was fired, yet the message was clear. Stay out. The Council didn't know what to do. They had expected protests, maybe even a small rebellion. But this complete withdrawal was something they had never seen. Humans had vanished from the galactic stage not with a bang, but with a locked door. On Vexus Prime, emergency meetings stretched into days. Counselor Krell argued for patience. They are testing us, he said, his voice low and steady. They want to see if we'll chase them like frightened prey. But others weren't so calm. High Speaker Varnus paced the chamber, his silver eyes narrowed. They built a faster-than-light drive in 50 years, he reminded them. They cured aging-related diseases in less than a century. Do not mistake their silence for weakness. Still, the Council acted. They sent stealth probes, tiny, nearly invisible drones designed to slip past defenses and gather data. One headed for Mars, another toward Titan. A third aimed for the asteroid belt where human mining stations once hummed with activity. None returned. Back on Earth, life went on. But beneath the surface, everything had changed. Factories that once made consumer goods now produced shield emitters and sensor arrays. Universities shifted focus from diplomacy to astrophysics and quantum engineering. Children learned star charts alongside arithmetic. Deep under the red sands of Mars, in a sealed bunker lit by soft white LEDs, Rick Torres adjusted a coil of superconducting wire. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool air. Across the room, Maya Ellis studied a holographic readout, her fingers dancing over floating controls. The resonance is stable, she said. We can try the next phase. Torres nodded. Let's see if we can talk without them listening. What they were building wasn't a weapon. It was something far more dangerous to the Council's control, a new kind of communication. Using quantum entanglement, they could send messages instantly across any distance, without radio waves, without signals that could be traced or blocked. The Council's entire surveillance network relied on detecting energy signatures. This system left none. If it worked, humanity could speak to its colonies, its ships, its allies, without the Council ever knowing. On Titan, Chris Lane sat in the cockpit of his new fighter, the Shadowhawk. The ship was small, fast, and coated in a material that bent light and absorbed radar. He ran through a silent drill, guiding the craft through a simulated asteroid field using only manual controls. No AI, no external help, just him and the void. His instructor, a grizzled veteran named Frank Cole, watched from the control tower. "Good," he muttered. "They think we're hiding, but we're getting ready." Meanwhile, on the medical frigate Hope, Dr. Paul Jenkins treated a young engineer who'd been injured during a reactor test. The man's burns were severe, but Jenkins didn't panic. He applied a new type of biogel developed in Geneva labs, clear, cool, and laced with self-replicating nanites that repaired tissue from the inside out. Within hours, the engineer was sitting up, sipping broth. Jenkins smiled. "We used to send this tech to the Council for approval before sharing it," he said quietly. "Now we just use it. That was the new rule. If it helped, they used it. No permissions. No delays." Back on Earth, President Alan Wright met with his advisors in a secure underground bunker. Maps of human-controlled space glowed on the walls, fleet positions, resource stockpiles, defense grids. "Everything was ready. We're not at war," Wright said, "but we're not defenseless either." One advisor, a woman named Helen Ruiz, nodded. "The colonies are stable. Food, water, power, all self-sufficient for at least 2 years. And morale," she paused, "higher than it's been in decades. People weren't scared. They were proud. For the first time, humanity wasn't asking for permission to exist. They were simply existing on their own terms." The Council, meanwhile, grew desperate. They tried to spread rumors that Earth was collapsing, that humans were fighting among themselves, that their tech was failing, but no evidence supported it. Human colonies still shone on long-range scans. Their orbital platforms still rotated. Their lights still burned. Then came the first real test. A Qatari freighter, old, battered, and leaking atmosphere, drifted into the outer edge of human space. The Qatari were not part of the Council. They were a minor species, often ignored, sometimes exploited. This ship carried refugees, families fleeing a civil war in the Andromeda Arm. They had nowhere else to go. The Council had denied them aid. Non-interference, they claimed. But when human deep space monitors picked up their distress call, no orders were needed. The Hope changed course immediately. So did 2 supply vessels from the Proxima colonies. Within hours, the refugees were safe. Doctors treated the sick. Engineers patched their ship. Food and water were shared without question. When the Council found out, they sent a formal protest. "You have violated neutrality protocols," their message read. "Return the Qatari immediately." Earth's reply was a single data packet, sent not to the Council but broadcast openly to every non-Council species in range. Inside were the schematics for a clean, compact fusion reactor. Simple to build, cheap to run, capable of powering a small city for decades. No strings attached. The message was clear. Humanity didn't need the Council's rules to do what was right. Riots broke out on 3 Council worlds the next day. Minor species demanded access to the same technology. Why should humans share freely while the Council hoarded knowledge behind layers of bureaucracy and fees? Councillor Mira of the Lumini, a gentle species known for their empathy, stood in the spire and spoke softly. "They are not attacking us," she said. "They are showing us a better way, and we are too proud to follow." High Speaker Varnus said nothing, but his hands clenched into fists. Back on Mars, Rick Torres flipped a switch. A soft chime echoed through the lab. On Maya Ellis's screen, a message appeared, sent from Earth, received instantly with no signal trail. "It works," she whispered. Torres grinned. "Now we can talk to anyone, anywhere, and they'll never hear us coming." On Luna Station, Captain Brooks reviewed fleet reports. All ships were in position. "All systems green." He turned to Commander Grant. "They think we're hiding in the dark." She looked out the viewport at the silent stars. "Let them think that," she said, "while we build the future." And in the quiet hum of labs, shipyards and farms across human space, that future was already taking shape, not with noise, not with anger, but with steady, quiet work. The galaxy waited for humanity to speak again, but humanity had already said everything it needed to. Part 3. The Qatari refugees stayed. No one asked them to leave. No one demanded payment. On the terraformed moon of Proxima B3, they were given shelter, clean water, and medical care. Children played in open fields under a gentle sun. Elders rested in quiet gardens. Engineers from Earth helped them repair their ships, not to send them away, but to give them choices. When the Galactic Council heard the news, they sent another message. Harsher this time. Harboring unauthorized aliens violates Treaty 7, it read. You will return them or face consequences. Earth did not reply. Instead, a small human freighter named the Dawn Runner left Proxima space. It carried no weapons. No soldiers. Just crates marked with simple symbols, food, medicine, tools. It docked at a neutral trading post near the Lyra border, a place used by dozens of minor species ignored by the Council. There, the captain, a quiet woman named Rosa Kim, opened the cargo bay and said, "Take what you need." No credits were asked for. No contracts signed, just help. Word spread fast. Within days, ships from 5 different species arrived at the outpost. Some came for supplies, others just to see if it was true, that humans were giving things away, that they weren't demanding loyalty or obedience, just kindness. Back on Earth, President Alan Wright watched the reports with quiet satisfaction. He hadn't ordered the aid drop. It had come from local commanders acting on their own. That was the point. Humanity didn't need a central order to do the right thing. It was built into them. Meanwhile, on Mars, Rick Torres and Maya Ellis tested their new communication system across interstellar distances. A message sent from their lab reached a research station near Alpha Centauri in less than a second. No delay, no trace. The Council's listening posts heard nothing. It's like whispering in a storm, Maya said, smiling for the first time in weeks. On Titan, Chris Lane flew a training mission near Saturn's rings. His Shadowhawk moved like a ghost, weaving through ice chunks and magnetic currents. Ground control stayed silent, part of the drill. He navigated by instinct, by starlight, by feel. When he landed, his instructor, Frank Cole, clapped him on the shoulder. "You're ready," he said simply. Ready for what? Neither of them said out loud. The real shift wasn't in weapons or ships. It was in trust. Minor species began reaching out, not to the Council, but to human outposts. A Mirkal trader sent a request for water purifiers. A Veln scout asked for navigation charts of the Orion Spur. Each time, humans responded quickly, fairly, and without conditions. The Council tried to stop it. They issued warnings. They threatened trade sanctions. But their power was fading. Species that once depended on Council-approved tech now had access to better, simpler human designs. And they liked dealing with humans because humans treated them like people, not problems. Then came the data drop. One morning, every non-Council species with a working comm unit received the same file. No sender ID, no message. Just a folder labeled for everyone. Inside were blueprints. Not for weapons. Not for warships. For things that saved lives. Atmospheric processors that could turn toxic air into breathable oxygen. Zero-point energy taps that provided clean power for entire villages. Neural interface kits that helped the blind see and the paralyzed walk. All open source. All free to build. The Council scrambled to contain it. They claimed the tech was unstable, dangerous, unlicensed. But engineers across the galaxy tested it and found it worked perfectly. Better, in fact, than Council-approved models that cost 10 times as much. Riots turned into rallies. On the ocean world of Mirkal Prime, thousands gathered in the floating cities holding up human schematics like banners. "Give us tools, not rules," they chanted. Councillor Krell stood before the spire and pleaded for calm. "This is reckless," he said. "Humanity is bypassing centuries of safety protocols." But Councillor Mira of the Luminae shook her head. "They are not bypassing safety," she replied. "They are bypassing control." High Speaker Varnus remained silent. But his eyes betrayed his fear. The order he had spent his life upholding was crumbling, not from attack but from generosity. Back on Earth, Dr. Paul Jenkins boarded a shuttle bound for Proxima B3. He carried new medical kits and a team of young doctors. When he arrived, the Qatari elder, a woman named Taylor, greeted him with a bow. "You give without taking," she said. "We do not understand this," Jenkins smiled. "You will." In Geneva, President Wright met with his science council. "They think we're weak because we don't conquer," he said. "But real strength isn't in taking, it's in giving." No one argued. On Luna Station, Captain Brooks reviewed a new fleet deployment. Human ships were now stationed near neutral zones, not to patrol but to assist. If a freighter broke down, a human vessel would appear within hours. If a colony faced a crisis, help was already on the way. Commander Lisa Grant joined him at the console. "The council just sent another demand," she said, handing him a data pad. "They want us to stop interfering in galactic affairs." Brooks read it, then deleted it without comment. "We're not interfering," he said. "We're participating." And that was the difference. While the council issued orders from their crystal tower, humanity built bridges in the dark. While the council counted votes, humans counted lives saved. While the council feared change, humans embraced it. The Qatari began helping too. They shared their knowledge of deep space navigation. In return, humans taught them how to grow crops in low gravity. It wasn't trade. It was partnership. On Mars, Torres and Ellis sent their first long-range test message to a human colony near Sirius. It contained only 2 words: "We're listening." The reply came instantly: "So are we." No one outside human space knew this network existed. To the rest of the galaxy, humanity was still silent. But among themselves, they were closer than ever. The Council grew more desperate. They accused Earth of technological sedition. They claimed humans were creating chaos. But fewer and fewer species believed them. Even some council members began to doubt. A young Xanthari diplomat, barely past his first molt, whispered to a friend, "What if they're right? What if we've been wrong all along?" Back on Titan, Chris Lane looked up at the stars from the flight line. Saturn's rings glowed in the distance. He thought about the Qatari children he'd seen in the news feeds, laughing, running, safe. He thought about the blueprints shared across the stars. He thought about what it meant to be human, not loud, not violent, just there, helping. In the quiet hum of human space, something new was growing, not an empire, not a rebellion, a community. And the Galactic Council had no laws to stop it. Because you cannot outlaw kindness, you cannot regulate hope, and you cannot silence a people who choose to speak through action, not words. Part 4. The cracks in the Galactic Council grew wider every day. What started as quiet doubts among minor species turned into open defiance. Ships that once flew Council colors now carried no flags at all. Trade routes shifted away from Vexus Prime toward human-supported hubs near Proxima and Sirius. Even species that had long been loyal to the Council began asking hard questions. Why did it take humans 1 year to build a clean water generator, while Council approval took 10? Why were human medkits saving lives on a dozen worlds, while Council hospitals charged for basic care? And most importantly, why did humanity help without asking for anything back? The answers were simple, but they hurt. The Council had ruled through control, not care. Through rules, not relationships. And now, they were losing their grip. On Vexus Prime, the celestial spire felt colder than usual. Council meetings, once filled with confident debate, now echoed with tension. High Speaker Varnus sat at the head of the table, his silver eyes scanning the faces around him. He saw fear where there used to be pride. Councillor Krell stood to speak. "We must act," he said. "If we do nothing, the entire structure collapses." "And what would you have us do?" asked Councillor Mira of the Lumini, her voice soft but firm. "Send warships to stop farmers from sharing seeds? Bomb clinics because they heal the sick? The galaxy is watching, and they see who offers help, and who offers only demands." Krell had no answer. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Alan Wright prepared for a speech. Not to Earth, not to the Council, but to everyone else. Using the new quantum network built by Rick Torres and Maya Ellis, his message would bypass every Council firewall and reach billions directly. In a quiet room beneath Geneva, he stood before a single camera. No crowd, no fanfare, just him and the truth. "We never wanted to rule you," he began. "We only wanted to stand beside you as equals. You denied us that, so we will show you what equality looks like, not through conquest, but through generosity, innovation, and choice." As he spoke, data packets streamed out from hidden relays across human space. They carried not just his words, but more open-source designs. For schools, for power grids, for crop rotation in harsh climates. All tested, all free. Within hours, the message spread like wildfire. On dusty outposts in ocean cities, in asteroid colonies and forest villages, people gathered around screens and listened. Many cried, not from sadness but from hope. Back on Mars, Torres watched the network traffic spike. "They're downloading everything," he said, amazed. Ellis nodded. "Because they're tired of being told they're not ready." On Titan, Chris Lane flew a routine patrol near the edge of human space. His sensors picked up a small vessel, unarmed, unmarked, drifting. He moved closer. It was a Miracle scout ship, engines dead. Without hesitation, he sent a rescue signal. Within minutes, a human repair tug arrived. No questions asked. The Miracle captain, a tall being with shimmering blue skin, pressed a hand to his chest in thanks. "Your people, you do not seek to own us," he said through a translator. Lane shook his head. "We just want you to be free." That word, free, began echoing across the galaxy. On Proxima B3, the Qatari refugees started teaching human children their songs. In return, human engineers helped them build a new home. Not a camp, but a real settlement with gardens and schools and a central hall for meetings. It wasn't charity. It was friendship. The council tried one last move. They called an emergency summit and demanded all member species reaffirm their loyalty. But when the vote came, 3 species abstained. 2 walked out. The Veln, once among the council's strongest allies, simply said, "We will no longer follow those who refuse to see." High Speaker Varnus stood alone in the spire after the meeting. The great chamber, once filled with light and power, now felt hollow. He looked at the empty seats and whispered, "We built walls to protect order, but they became cages." Back on Earth, Dr. Paul Jenkins returned from Proxima with a new idea. He proposed a network of mobile clinics, human ships that would travel to any world in need, staffed by volunteers from many species. "Let's call it the Healing Fleet," he said. President Wright approved it the same day. In Geneva, the United Earth Assembly voted unanimously to share all non-military technology with any species that asked. No forms, no waiting. Just access, the galaxy noticed. A young Zenthari student on a distant colony used a human-designed solar charger to power her learning tablet. A Mirkal fisherman used a human water purifier to feed his village. A Veln farmer grew crops in dry soil thanks to human seed hybrids. None of them owed anything to Earth. But they all felt a debt of gratitude, and gratitude builds loyalty faster than fear ever could. On Luna Station, Captain Brooks received a message from an unexpected source, a former council envoy, now retired. "You didn't break us with weapons," the message read. "You broke us by being better than we were." Brooks showed it to Commander Grant. She read it, then looked out at the stars. "Maybe that was the plan all along," she said. "Not to win a war, but to make war unnecessary." The Council's final mistake was thinking humanity wanted to replace them. But humans never wanted a throne. They just wanted a chance to help, and to be treated like they mattered. Now others wanted the same. Minor species began meeting in secret, not to plot rebellion but to plan a new kind of union, one based on sharing, not control, on voice, not votes, on need, not rank. They called it the Concord of Free Systems. Earth didn't lead it. They simply joined it as equals, and for the first time in centuries the galaxy felt like it belonged to everyone. High Speaker Varnus finally admitted the truth in a closed session. "They are dismantling our order without firing a single shot," he said, his voice heavy. "And we have no defense because they are offering hope. And we have only rules. Rules that no one wanted anymore." On Mars, Torres and Ellis sent one last test message through their network. This time it wasn't just to human colonies. It went to the Qatari, the Mirkal, the Veln, the Lumini, even to a quiet listening post near Vexus Prime. The message was simple. You are not alone. And for the first time, the galaxy believed it. Part 5. 1 year after humanity cut all ties with the Galactic Council, the old order was gone. The celestial spire on Vexus Prime stood empty, its lights dimmed, its halls silent. The council had not been overthrown by force. It had simply faded away, like a law no one chose to follow anymore. In its place rose something new, the Concord of Free Systems, a loose but growing network of species who believed in sharing, not ruling. Earth was not its leader. It was its first equal member. Captain Daniel Brooks stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, a ship that once flew diplomatic missions but now served as a joint patrol vessel. Beside him, Commander Lisa Grant watched a view screen showing a Mircall freighter and a Veln scout ship moving in formation nearby. All three ships, human, Mircall, Veln, were working together to clear debris from a damaged trade lane near Sirius. They used to say we couldn't be trusted to work with others, Grant said. A small smile on her lips, Brooks nodded. Now they can't imagine doing it without us. Back on Earth, life had changed in quiet but deep ways. Schools taught not just human history, but the poetry of the Qatari, the ocean songs of the Mircall, and the star myths of the Veln. Children grew up knowing that the galaxy was not a place to conquer, but a home to share. In Geneva, President Alan Wright walked through a public park. No guards, no fanfare, just a man enjoying a sunny afternoon. A young girl ran up to him holding a drawing. "I drew you with the Lumini ambassador," she said proudly. Wright knelt and looked at the crayon sketch. "You made us look like friends," he said. "We are," she replied, as if it were the simplest truth in the world, and it was. On Mars, Rick Torres and Maya Ellis stood in their lab, now part of a larger research hub that included scientists from 5 different species. They were testing a new atmospheric processor, one designed not just for human colonies but for the thin, cold air of Veln outposts. A Veln engineer named Jorik adjusted a valve while Ellis checked the readouts. "It's working," she said. Jorik clicked his mandibles in what humans had learned was a Veln laugh. "Your machines are strange," he said. "They fix problems instead of creating them." Torres shrugged. "We just build what's needed." On Titan, Chris Lane sat in the cockpit of the Shadowhawk, but this time he wasn't alone. Beside him was a young Qatari pilot named Lyra, learning human flight controls. She had come to Titan not as a refugee but as a student, and soon, as a partner. "Your hands are too gentle," Lane said as she guided the ship through a simulation. "Qatari fly with the wind." "Not against it," she replied. He smiled. "Then teach me," and she did. Meanwhile, the healing fleet, Dr. Paul Jenkins's dream, now included medics from 7 species. Their ships traveled to war-torn worlds, plague zones, and disaster areas, offering care without asking for anything in return. On a dusty moon near Andromeda, a Lumini healer and a human surgeon worked side by side to save a wounded Veln child. No one cared who was from where. They only cared that the child lived. The Concord of Free Systems held its first open meeting on a neutral station orbiting Proxima Centauri. There were no thrones, no head table, just a circle of chairs. Earth's representative, a quiet diplomat named Rosa Kim, sat between a Mircall elder and a young Xanthari scholar. They spoke not of laws but of needs, not of power but of partnership. When asked why humanity had done all this, why they had walked away from the Council only to build something better, Rosa simply said, "Because no one should have to beg to be treated like they matter." Her words spread. Not through broadcasts but through stories told around fires, in ships, and in homes across the stars. Back on Earth, farmers used new seed strains developed with Veln soil science. In orbit, engineers from 3 species worked together to build a solar shield to protect a fragile Lumini habitat from solar flares. On Luna Station, children from human, Qatari, and Mircall families played together in zero gravity, laughing in a mix of languages that somehow made perfect sense to them. The galaxy had not been conquered. It had been connected. High Speaker Varnus, now retired, lived quietly on a remote moon. One day, a human courier arrived with a simple package. Inside was a book, bound in soft cloth filled with drawings and stories from Earth's children. On the first page, a note read, "Thank you for teaching us what not to become." He read it under the light of 2 suns and wept, not from shame, but from hope. The old ways were gone, but something better had taken root. On the bridge of the Resolute, Brooks received a message through the quantum network. It was from a small colony near the galactic rim, a place humans had never visited. The message was short. "We built your water purifier. It works, thank you." Grant looked at him. "We never even knew they needed it." "That's the point," Brooks said. "They weren't heroes. They weren't rulers. They were neighbors. And that was enough." In classrooms, in labs, in fields, and on ships, the work continued. Not for glory, not for control. Just because it was right, the galaxy had once feared human unpredictability. Now, it trusted human kindness. And in the quiet hum of 1,000 worlds working together, a new age began, not with a declaration, not with a battle, but with a shared meal, a helping hand, and the simple belief that everyone deserved a place in the stars. Humanity had not won the galaxy. They had welcomed it home.